Ever question yourself when looking at video games? Ever wonder if it's worth the buy or a skip? Well, no worries, because FrameGame is here. Staxel, a new farming simulator like never before. For today, we have a combination of Minecraft and farming. Oh wait, that's just in Minecraft. Well, it's different, trust me. In this version of Stardew Craft, you have some great functionality when it comes to animals and planting. However, don't forget that this is an early access title. In this review, we will be looking at different aspects of the game, whether it be graphics, sound, gameplay, or pure, unadulterated content. The first thing we are going to look at are the graphics, which means we have to forward in time. Alright, so with the graphics, in this game we have a lot of vibrant colors, which is great for the game, along with a cubic aspect which changes how things are played. As you may have seen in previous farming simulators such as Stardew Valley or the older games such as Harvest Moon, you can see that sometimes you can have some kind of editing aspect to your farm, but it's not super in-depth all the time. Stardew Valley went a step further in allowing you to do crafting and placing different ground tiles and stuff in this large plot to play with. However, once again, things like barns or chicken coops are set and stone. When you build them, they are what they are, and there's not much altering. However, this game, Staxel, not only allows you to alter everything, you build it via block by block construction, sort of like Minecraft. In this way, you're able to fully change the functionality of your farm in any way you desire. This is very cool. Not only can you change things such as barns or other such buildings, you can even change your own house brick by brick. You can tear it down completely and replace every block with whatever you desire. Not only this, but you have the ability to construct certain items and blocks yourself by hand, which we will get into later on in the gameplay aspect. So, along with the cubic look and the vibrant colors, I'd say these graphics get a 4 out of 5. There's a reason why it won't get a 5 out of 5 of slimes, and that is because of its blocky nature, ironically. The problem with this is there are very small, individual pixel-sized cubes to create smaller objects such as flowers, bugs, plants, all these things. This gets hectic quickly. If you're on a bug hunt, specifically for a certain type of bug, say a bee to make apiaries, it becomes very difficult to find. They blend in so easily with the cubic environment that it's almost frustrating. And that is why it will not get a perfect score on the graphics. Moving along, we have sound. Now, sound, on the other hand, is very interesting. It has both your average sound bank, but it also has a spatial sound to the game. Now, allow me to elaborate on that. First, you have normal ambiance, right? You have birds tweeting in the background, or water sounds, stuff like that. Of course, those are just sounds in general. I haven't actually seen any birds. However, there are certain entities in the game that have spatial sound, such as crickets, bees, and flies. These creatures buzz or chirp in any which way, and you can hear them in a spatial environment, so you can kind of tell which way they're coming from, whether they're in front of you, behind you, or to the side. This is phenomenal. It's an interesting, more in-depth part of the game that I didn't even think that I wanted. But as I started playing, I started listening for those sounds when I was searching for bees or any other kind of insect. Whenever I was just bug hunting to sell things, I was like, I can easily hear chirping, so I might as well go on a grasshopper hunt. Or if I wanted to make an apiary, I'd be like, better listen for that buzzing. It changed things a little bit in a way that I never imagined it would. And that makes the sound a lot more in-depth, rather than just having default ambiance that plays wherever you go. Speaking of which, the ambiance does change between settings, whether you're digging in a hole, chopping down a tree, or walking around in town. There are small shifts and changes in the sound/music that make the game much more enjoyable. So with this, I am going to give the sound aspect of this game a 5 out of 5 slimes. Now we move on to the gameplay. And don't get me wrong, I love farming sims and they are a lot of fun. But there are some things that need to be changed. Now, the good news of this is that the creators of the game have addressed some of these problems and have said that they are working on updates right now as we speak to improve these things. However, until they are improved, this game leaves some to desire. Now, to begin, I would like to point out the farm. Obviously, farming is a major aspect of the game. It's kind of a farming sim where you're a farmer, whether it be cultivating animals or plants. However, in this situation, there was some left to be desired. I feel like it could do better with a larger variety of plants, because as of right now, there are only a handful, and some of them of which carry over to other seasons. Like when you very first start the game and you go into the store, you can pretty much see every single plant that you'll ever see throughout your entire playthrough, just in this one first season. Because a lot of the seeds carry over to separate months, or they are own individual months, but you can usually see them in the shelves. And you can buy them even in seasons of which you are not currently in. This leaves a bit of a problem, but of course it is early access, and so that is to be expected. So that isn't as much of a problem. Growing is great, planting is great, tilling the land feels great. You don't even have to upgrade your tool to be able to upgrade to, well, not upgrade at all. You just have a better scything skill or tilling skill to the point that you can plant or till multiple spaces at once. In most games, you either have to get the golden tools to do this, but in this game, you just take your hoe, hold it down for longer, and you can till up 6 spaces or more in one single swing. This was nice. I felt like it made the game less grindy. However, at the same time, I felt less fulfilled in a way. It's fun to progress throughout the game, starting from weak beginnings where you can only plant so much a day because you're limited to how many spaces you can till, or how much spaces you can water before becoming exhausted. However, this game does not have an exhaustion meter, so you can do as much as you want, and you don't need to get any kind of upgrades to be able to till more spaces or water more spaces, which means there isn't that big of a progression in the game. There is progression in the sense that you start out trying to be like, oh, what do I do? And you start figuring things out, you start getting new animals and stuff. So it's not to say that there isn't progression at all. I would just prefer there to be more progression, which also, once again, the devs have addressed. They have come out and said they are going to add more content in terms of things that will add more progression to the game, whether it be more quests or upgrades. And that I am thoroughly looking forward to. However, until then, that will have a mark on my score. But that isn't even the biggest issue here. We covered the weird graphical issue where it's hard to see things sometimes. We covered the issue where there seems to be a lack in upgrades, so progression is a little stale, sure. But there is one major thing that makes this a little iffy to me as to whether or not it is fully worth a buy just yet. And that is the trees. Now, for those of you who do not own the game, allow me to explain the situation. Trees, they do not respawn. You cannot plant them, or anything like that. You can plant fruit trees, but I mean base trees for chopping down for wood, for building, or crafting. You cannot get trees back, so once you chop them down in the world, they are gone forever. This is huge. It is a major problem, because they have an entire aspect of the game that is really cool, right? Essentially, you can craft items, you can craft troughs for your cows, or you can craft chicken coops, and you can craft apiaries, and that is so cool. I love that. You don't have to just go straight up and buy it. That's fantastic. However, trees don't respawn. And that's the biggest problem. When trees don't respawn, how are you going to get more wood? The only way to get more wood is to buy it at the store. And if you're going and buying the components to craft something anyways, you might as well spend your time just saving up that little bit more money to buy the object you're trying to craft. So as of right now, there is no point in crafting. It's fun, for sure, but there's no full purpose for it. I would want crafting to be a thing where it takes time to do, sure, but it's a lot cheaper from buying. But in this case, since you have to buy the materials to craft it anyway, it's barely any cheaper at all. You might as well spend barely any time more going and scavenging for shells and stuff on the beach, so that you can get enough money to just straight up buy the product. Why waste your time on all of that when it's only like 100 money more to just buy in the general store? And that's one of my biggest problems with it. That's not also including things such as the general store always having the items for all years. Now this is probably because it just doesn't have that much content from being an early access game at the time. When they create more, they'll probably change that. But for now, you can buy pretty much everything year-round in any of the stores. So there is no point. Now, if items were maybe rarer, only show up in certain seasons, maybe even show up on only certain days of the week, then it would make crafting that much more valid. Because you could craft it instead of having to wait till like the end of the year in December to be able to buy a certain thing. That would put so much more emphasis on crafting than what it has right now. However, as it stands, crafting is a moot point. There is no reason whatsoever to do that, especially considering how much money you start making by the end. How many cows you get, how many chickens you get. You can make bank really easily. And when you're making that much money, just buy everything. Why not? So, until that is fixed, the gameplay point is not going to be a 4 or a 5. I am giving this a 3 out of 5 of slimes. It would be much higher if the crafting was much more purposeful. But until then, it's losing marks. Now, once again, you have to take into consideration that this is, as I said, it is an early access title. So that should not be all that surprising that it is missing in some features. And so my overall review, I'm going to give it a 3.5 slimes out of 5. I wish I could give it more. I do thoroughly enjoy it and I've spent many hours in it to be sure. But until it is more perfected and these moot points are improved, I am going to give it this score. Its saving grace in gameplay probably would have been the quest system, because you can get different quests from different people in the town. Of course, there are the beginning quests that's like, this is how you build and this is how you craft. But there's also quests that involve moving new people into your town. They are given to you by the mayor himself. He comes up and says, "Hey, guess what? We have people who want to move in, and we are impressed with your work on your farm, of how you built your first barn. And therefore, we want you to build the houses for newcomers to our little community." That is awesome. I love that so much. It gives so much more gameplay. You're able to decide, oh, I'm going to give these people a giant mansion on the mountain because they seem like wealthier people. And then I'll put these people over in bungalows on the beach. They get the seaside view. You know, you get to mess around with it and you can make your town look really cool. It's great that you get to customize not just your own farm, but the town and the people's houses themselves. And that was its major saving grace. Without that, I probably would have only given it a 2 out of 5. But, as it stands, with that in there, the 3.5 out of 5 will do greatly. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and remember that this game has now been framed.